being homeless at 17, messed around with drugs a little bit, ended up in jail. I needed to hit rock bottom. I needed that to happen to me to be able to move forward in my life.
What if hitting rock bottom was the beginning of your greatest comeback? Andy Wood, a humble, empowering leader whose journey from survival to success will leave you inspired and energized.
You've got a few businesses now. One of them's turning over 10 million. How the heck have you done this?
How can someone go from homelessness, prison, to building and scaling a multi-million-pound business that changes lives for the better?
What's the most beautiful thing about owning a business?
Having a purpose.
ActionCOACH, the help you need to grow your business.
Now, you've had a success story, but it's been a survival story as well. What was the lowest point?
I've probably got two. I suppose the first would be being homeless at 17. Parents had had enough.
Why did they have enough?
I struggled growing up. Dyslexia. Always got in trouble in school. Always the kid at the back of the classroom swinging on the chair, not being able to pay attention. So ultimately, we moved a lot as well with my dad's job. So the quickest and easiest.
What was your dad's job?
Businessman. So when he bought a new business, we tend to move to wherever that new business was purchased. The easiest thing when you move to a new school is to probably mix with the wrong crowds for exception quite quickly. So I found myself getting in trouble quite a lot, and not being able to grasp what was going on in the classroom didn't help either. So yeah, parents had enough and sort of said enough's enough. Dad was it was my stepdad as well, but he was very ruled with an iron fist as well, so was very strict. And 17 was the point where he said, I've had enough, off you go. So that was a low point.
And then you were homeless?
Homeless, yeah.
And what did you do?
Went to a friend's house, slept on a couch, till I managed to sort myself out. About 6-7 months later, managed to get a flat. You talk about the word survival. That then got me. I enjoyed going clubbing. Got messed around with drugs a little bit to survive. Sold a little bit. Got caught and ended up in jail, where my parents always told me I'd end up. So I proved them right in many ways.
Got emotions running through my veins here. So 17, homeless, survived, eventually got caught selling drugs.
Yeah.
Prison for how long?
2 years.
Whereabouts?
I did, I should know this, the first one. One in Preston, I forgot what name it's called.
Distant memory.
Deleted
from the mind.
Well, it shouldn't be, because, it was a massive part of my journey, I think, from, when you go to prison, I think you got two ways, James. You either learn from the people that you're in there and you're going to go on the same roller coaster and be in and out of prison potentially for the rest of your life. I sort of realised very quickly that I didn't want to be there, and I had to change my ways. And I sort of, from almost day one being in the extremely low point, from you going in.
Do you remember your first day?
I do, yeah.
Did you cry?
I did.
By yourself?
I didn't expect you have this thing in your head that I'll be okay. You're in the courtroom, and when that judge says 2 years, you go down to a cell, and it's really scary. I cried in that cell for a long time. Probably cried for a few days after that, to be honest, as well. But yeah, it was scary.
What thoughts were going through your head?
I've proved what everyone said that I'd end up being. I'm here, scared, worried about getting bullied. What was it going to be like when you actually got to the?
Because 19, you're an adult, but you're a kid, aren't you?
Yeah.
19.
Yeah.
Starting your own business was an exciting time, wasn't it? The good days you had, and the bad. You knew you'd have to work hard, but you did it for your future. Lately, though, you're missing out on the important things in life. Time seems to be slipping by. So make the change. Claim back your work-life balance and grow your business today. Visit actioncoach.co.uk.
Just scared, didn't know what to expect. I've been used to, being free, and the thought of being behind prison bars, I had no idea what to expect. It wasn't actually as bad as what I thought once I got there, but it was still scary.
What did you learn most in prison over 2 years?
Probably learnt most about myself, that I needed to hit rock bottom to be able to change the direction that my life was going in. Someone who had struggled with learning all my life was suddenly in an environment where I now wanted to learn, and anything that was offered to me, I now wanted to grab with both hands. Within a month of being in the jail, the warden worked out that I had a joinery qualification, bear it only be an MVQ, but he asked me if I wanted to be a teaching assistant to the juveniles. I was like, yeah, my first bit of purpose, I can help juveniles, brilliant. Got to wear a green band and got to be able to walk around the jail openly while others were banged up for most of the day, only getting an hour out. I was now going into an environment and felt like I was useful. It was a great feeling.
Was this the first time in your life when you felt purpose? That's what you just said.
I'd say so, yeah.
In prison, when you were asked to help someone else,
yeah,
that's when you felt a sense of purpose.
It was, yeah.
It's really important, isn't it? Serving other people. Do you reckon that was the first time in your life where you'd actually served other people,
100%.
and it wasn't about you?
Yeah, for sure.
Even though it was about you, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because this was about the new you.
Yeah. And again, moving on, although I can't remember, Lancaster Farms was the name of the prison. So that was the first one, which is a mixed jail of anyone from murderers to paedophiles to, it's the full spectrum, which again is quite scary. It's quite haunting at night when you hear all the shouting and the screaming and the stuff.
Is it like what the movies that we see,
No, I don't think it is like the movies, no. But it is still it's not a place you want to go back to. And that helped me move to the right hand.
Just talking about it, what's it making you feel emotional?
Yeah, it does, yeah. Yeah. It brings back the memories of going there, which I want to still have, because that still gives me my drive and my purpose.
Do you have regrets?
No. I needed that to happen to me to be able to move forward in my life.
I captured, what you'd said. I've heard it before, but you said it in a way, maybe it was how you said it and the emotions that you're packing this with, that I heard it differently. You had to hit rock bottom to change.
Yeah.
It's kind of true for most people, isn't it? It's like when it gets really bad, we're forced to change.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm not proud of the drugs or the things that I was doing to get me to jail, but I'm proud of the fact that when I did go there is that I made that decision on day one, and any opportunity that came to me in that jail I took. For good behaviour, after 8 months, I got sent to an open jail, Thorn Cross, and went on a boot camp. That boot camp was part of a programme that they were doing for people that they could get back out into the workplace. Mm-hmm. For 8 weeks you got treated as if you were a soldier. So you were wearing uniform. It gave me this purpose again of discipline. You make your bed in the morning, you shine your boots, you're out marching at 6 o'clock. We did Duke of Edinburgh. We got to resit our English and maths to be able to remake your record of achievement. Do you remember them?
It's burgundy folder.
Yeah. And then they got you a job at the end of that 8 weeks, and you got to go home and you got to go to your job Monday to Friday and then go back to the jail at the weekend. you probably see my passion. That was, and I know it shouldn't be, but I loved every minute of that. And it taught me so much, about the disciplines, about the taking those opportunities. The job that they got me, I stayed with all the way up until 6 months before I started my own business. And, it's amazing, really.
It is amazing, really. All right, so we'll get back to you starting your own business in a second. So that was rock bottom.
Yes.
When did you come out of prison?
2021. No, sorry, 2001.
2001.
Yeah, I told you
2021.
I was confused.
Yeah, that's all right. It's the dyslexia. I mean, you're embracing it now. Yeah. I mean, let's confront the elephant.
2001.
2001. And just for the listeners, you get numbers mixed up as part of your dyslexia. That's how dyslexia affects different people in different ways. And by the way, folks, 35% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic, and a lot of them don't even know it. And here's a second stat: 40% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. You included, sir. You're in that positive stat. Okay, so you came out in 2001. Do you remember the day?
I do, yeah. I was very lucky that my placement started a week before my birthday, so it was June 28th. So I was actually on release for my 21st birthday, and then I had to go back to the prison at the weekend.
What did you have to do at the prison at the weekend then?
So part of the placement was if you completed your 8 weeks training, your last 4 weeks you got to go out to a job. If you completed that 8 weeks, you got to go out to a job that they help you find, and you did your job Monday to Friday. You got to stay at your home Monday to Friday, but then you had to go back to the jail at the weekend until those 4 weeks were finished. It was part of the rehabilitation program to get you out back into society.
To be fair, it's worked on you.
I wish they did more of it, because I believe that program that I did isn't available anymore, and really? I thought it was an amazing program.
Well, what we're seeing in front of us today is pretty amazing, because let's go there now.
Okay.
It's you're 44-year-old,
yes.
Almost 45.
Almost
45 this year. 45 this year, and it's a long time ago since 2021.
Yeah.
You said you kept a job and then you started a business. But you've got a few businesses now. Two of them in particular. One of them's turning over 10 million. Yep. The other one's turning over 5 million. The one with 10 million's got 70 employees that you're proudly employing yourself. The other one is pretty a lean business, actually. 5 million turnover, 10 employees.
Yep. That's
the success. How the heck have you done this?
Well, I've got to go back to and thank Thorncross again for that boot camp, because they got me a job at Jackson Lloyd, which was a building and maintenance company. I remember going in my prison uniform, going to the interview with Dennis Cleary, the owner. "What have you done, lad?" So I told him what I've done. "No problem. Come and start here. Start off as a labourer." And I did, and I was so grateful to that man for giving me a chance. Dennis.
How old was he?
He would have probably been in his early 50s when he took me on.
What have you done, lad?
Yeah.
And he put his arm around you.
He put his arm around me.
That's forgiveness, that, isn't it? It's like acceptance.
It was.
It takes the pressure off you, that, yeah?
Yeah, it did. It really did. And I was so grateful for him to give me a chance.
I want to major on this, even if it's just for a minute. How important was that forgiveness for you?
Massive. When you go to prison, you think, how am I ever going to get a mortgage? How am I ever going to get a job? How am I ever going to fit back into society? All those things race through your head. And when Dennis put his arm around me and said, "I'll give you a chance," it's just like your shoulders just relaxed. It was huge.
And it doesn't have to be prison neither, for someone putting their arm around you. Because everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes, you make mistakes. The listeners have made mistakes. The listeners, some of their staff have made mistakes. Put your arm around someone.
It's something
Forgive them. Give them a chance.
Yeah, it's something that I've certainly carried forward into my business practices now, and it's really important to me because of how I felt when someone gave me that chance. I'd have probably still be working for Dennis now if they hadn't have sold the business. I mean, I suppose that takes me to where I set my business up in sort of 2006. They sold their business. I'd gone from being a labourer, again, from someone who doesn't like learning. Dennis was very supportive. I knew I was quite good at setting goals and targets. I knew I wanted, if Dennis, what do you want to be when in 5 years' time? I want to be sat where you're sitting. But he helped me do that. He put me on HNC, HND, paid for it all. Within 4 years of working at the business, I'm now gone from labourer to joiner to manager. And the only reason I left is because Dennis sold. I got mentored by some really good people along the way. Ian Grimes, he helped me go from joiner to manager. But it was only because they sold and it went a different direction that's how UPS was formed. In 2007, I sold my house. I had a 2-year-old son at the time.
What's his name?
Ethan. Sold the house because I knew I needed cash flow to start the business. I knew if I didn't have cash flow that I wouldn't survive. Main reason being I know generally 30 days payment terms, 60, 90. So I knew if I wanted to succeed that I needed that buffer. So I sold my house, and I set off on a journey with Dennis's son as my apprentice, as it happens, with a journey to try and do a good job, give the customer a good experience, hopefully snag free and hopefully win some more work. And I'll be honest, James, it went on like that for probably 8 years of wearing.
It was 8 years, wasn't it, to get to your first million?
Yeah, probably about maybe 5 years to get to our first million, but we never breached it. We were just in around
up
that.
And around, down, up and back.
15 staff, 20 staff, back to 15, 10. No, the problem was, James, in that sort of 10-year period, or maybe 8-year period, is that the work we were doing was all subcontract. So it was all subcontracting to main contractors. No, not a contract to say we'll give you £1 million of work over a year period. It was just ad hoc, and we'd take anything. Didn't specialise in anything. We'd just take anything from anyone to survive. Again, back to that word, survive.
But let's just capture that for a second. In business, what we do is basically we take anything from anyone to survive. And I've got a sneaky suspicion that's pretty common actually in businesses.
Probably, yeah.
Especially for the businesses that the intention and desire is to break through the million, like you.
Yeah.
But the reality is you were stuck in a trap.
Yeah.
And the trap was you will take anything from anyone in order to survive.
Revolving door. We'd take work. We'd have to wait 30, 60 days payment, so there was always a cash flow issue. The bigger companies that we seemed to work for, the harder it was to get paid. Oh, the FD's on holiday, or such a person needs to sign the cheque off. And it wasn't until one of the large companies, don't need to name them, but they went bust and took us for about 40k. And at that point, it was like, do we want to continue on this way?
Was that like another low point? Was that like, I'd hit rock bottom. We've literally, we don't have 40k in the bank. We've just lost 40k.
Yeah.
Were you at any break-even point? Were you scrimping for money?
I wouldn't say we were scrimping, but we were, with the mix of how hard we were trying to get to break that million, working.
For almost 10 years.
For almost 10 years with little reward, working on the tools during the day, doing the invoicing and everything at night. No management structure because we didn't have set contracts. It was chaos.
Your book deserves to be published, and selfpublishing.com wants to help make it happen. You'll work one-to-one with an author strategist to write, publish, and market your book the right way. With more than 8,000 authors and 100,000 books in print, they know what works. Ready to bring your story to life? Visit selfpublishing.com/ActionCOACH right now.
So you mix that in with the company going bust, and it was like, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my life? But again, the low point, managed to switch to
and you made a decision.
We made a decision.
Well, it's funny because when we look at the business now, in hindsight, it was 8 or 9 years to get to that million-ish, or, you know, up and down for that million. But then over the next 6 or 7 years, you went to 10 million.
Yeah.
What are the key things that changed in order to get from the 1 million floating around, the survival, the roller coaster, being on the tools, not seeing the kids? What are the key things that changed?
Coming up with a plan. You know, coming up with a plan, getting the management team that we did, the small management team that we had, getting our heads together and deciding how can we move forward and not be in the position that we are. And when a few of our heads took that time to get together, it's amazing the things that you can come up with when you, instead of being reactive and, you know, just working all the time, just taking a sit back. What do we want to achieve in 5 years' time? And how are we going to achieve it? And I know that might sound basic, but that is what we did. And from that outcome, it was, we do not want to be a subcontractor anymore. We want to be a main contractor. And how do we achieve it? What do we need? What steps do we need to put in place to become a main contractor? And we wrote it out on a big whiteboard, actually a big massive sheet of paper, which I've still got. I've got a great picture of it, which I re-look at all the time, post-it notes all over, circles, lines, you know, the full thing. And we just sat on our merry way of doing it. We got premises, we got branded up ourselves, we got the certification that we needed. We decided, the big one, the most important one, is that we decided that we'd specialise in one thing. That was big for us because as a building and maintenance contractor, we did anything and anything that anyone would give us, you know, whereas we decided we were going to specialise in adaptations, which really changed the business for us because it allowed us to focus on one thing. You know, what do we need to become the best adaptation contractor in the Northwest? And again, mapping that out and planning that out allowed us to come up with a plan that we could implement.
It's beautiful, really, isn't it? I like it when people communicate really simply and concisely. And, you know, a 5-year plan, we mapped it out. We decided on one thing. We didn't, you know, if you try and do everything, this is what the greats say, you'll be average. If you aim to get good at really one or maximum two things, you can become world class. So you chose. We did a 5-year plan. We got the management team, all the right brains together. Come on, guys, we can't continue like this. Came up with the plan, and then you said something amazing. We got on our merry way. With a smile on your face.
With a smile on our face, a fresh purpose, an action. You know, everyone knew where we wanted to get to.
Everyone firing in the same direction.
The boat was rowing in the same direction, as they say. And within 12 months, so we didn't need that 5-year plan because we did it in 12, and we won our first proper contract with Blackpool Council for 4 years, £1 million a year. So we went from a £1 million business to a £2 million business in the space of a year. And
but you guaranteed for the next ones as well?
Yeah, for the next 4 years. And as soon as we won that one contract, they all started rolling. We won Manchester City, Rochdale. You know, they just started rolling because once you've got one on your CV and you've learnt, you know, the process of writing a bid, and there was loads of unsuccessful bids in that 12 months. But once we won the first, once you get your winning formula and you can start, you know, replicating that process. And that's when everything changed, you know, because we had very rapid growth. And I'm not going to sit here and say that was easy. You know, going from 1 million to 2 million overnight, 2 million to 3 million.
Let's go, though. Let's go in that space. Let's look at the biggest challenges that you had. So to go from the 1 million to 2 million and the 2 to 3, what were the tough bits?
Putting processes and structures in place that we've never had to do in the 10. When you're used to doing everything yourself, from HR to doing the job on the tools to the invoicing to the banking to doing everything yourself, realising that we cannot grow at this speed with me still doing everything So then it was about identifying what the strengths and weaknesses that we had within the team, creating a senior management leadership team, creating that structure that was able to carry out these contracts without it all sitting on me, or which was a big help.
How long do you think it took you to put the processes and structures in place?
I would say the ones that work and work successfully has probably only happened over the last couple of years, because I think it takes that long to find the real leaders within your team, and the ones that can carry that responsibility of leading a team well. It was a lot of trial and error over those first 3 or 4 years.
And we learn from experience, and hindsight's a beautiful thing. So if you had to go back again with the challenge of just accelerating it a little bit,
yeah,
and putting the processes in place, the structures in place, the leadership team, as you said, what 1, 2, or 3 things would you do differently?
It's tough because it was so all new to me. I think one thing that I would do, though, looking back, is get a mentor, someone who's been there, done that. I think you can accelerate where you want to go to if you can lean on someone who's been there and done that before.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple of years to realise that. But when I did do it, again, when you go from sort of doing £1 million a year and not having any of that work guaranteed, it just comes in here and everywhere, to change to having set contracts of frameworks, you realise that you've now got the ability, because you've got X amount of money coming in, that you're able to do that. And it's a bit of trial error setting that team up. One of the best things that I did was go back to Jackson Lloyd and pull the commercial director that used to work there, or he was a contracts manager at the time, who mentored me. And he was coming up close to retirement, and I went and seen him and said, can you just come and help? And he came on board for 3 or 4 years as our commercial director. Again, getting that experience, finding the things that you're not that good at, and finding people that are, just accelerates that process. I wish I'd have done that probably a couple of years earlier, because that really does accelerate that process, doesn't it? If you can find someone that's been there, done that, got the experience to say, do this, do this, do this, whereas a lot of my things were just done by trial and error.
Which is very common. Now, you go back to age 21. I think you said Dennis Cleary.
Dennis Cleary, yeah.
Dennis Cleary, yeah. You said Dennis Cleary. He was your mentor, really. He put his arm around you, and he mentored you up. And, I mean, this is written in books. This is really well documented. They reckon you don't choose the business, for if you want to develop your career. Don't look at all of the best, most glamorous businesses in the world. If you're going in for interviews, and look at the businesses where you get the best manager or the best mentor to develop you, especially between that 20 and 30, which you had. But then when you start your own business, you didn't have. No, it's
it was because we were so, especially in the first 7 to 10 years, just doing everything yourself.
Yeah. You
don't have time. You lose that creative spark because you're just so reactive all the time. You can't see through the woods. What's the saying on that? Can't see the wood.
Can't see the wood for the trees.
That's the one. Yeah. You just can't, because you're so reactive and you're working all the time and you're not spending time with the family. It's only when you start putting the management structure in place that you can start almost thinking again and looking past a 5-year plan, looking to a 10-year plan. It shouldn't be as what it is, and on reflection, it's a mistake, but that's the reason why I think I was a bit slow on coming up with that, because it was so, as soon as we had those contracts, it all happened quite quickly, getting the people in that we needed, because we had the budget to be able to. We knew what was coming in.
Yeah, well, I mean, bid writing. What was the big lessons for you on sort of bid writing? Some of the listeners are wanting to get into developing bids and all this kind of thing.
I think it's massively important. It changed our business almost instantly. What I would say again, on the same old cliche, I tried to do my first bid myself, and someone being dyslexic trying to write a bid, it didn't go well. So again, it's finding someone that you can... I wouldn't go down the route of trying to do it yourself unless you've got absolutely no budget to do so. I took a long time finding the right bid manager, and I think it's imperative. And it's someone that I class as my friend. They come into the business, they feel like they're part of the team, and they really get to know your personality and the team, and they're able to put that down on paper. And it really, like I say, it really transformed our business, and it's integral to our business to carry on on its growth.
I'm getting a resounding feeling of this. Some great psychologist once said, and I captured it, and I've remembered it for probably the best part of 20 years. It's not where you are, it's who you are.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt that and sensed that from, you know, the day you went into prison, you told the story, the day you came out, and, you know, and all of these challenges, you're quite a humble guy, certainly now anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know you then. How have you developed yourself, especially around dyslexia as well?
Yeah. I think going back to prison again, where I say choosing the left or the right side, left being you learn from your peers, and you probably go through that cycle again, or right, I was adamant at that point that I wanted to go on my own self-development journey. That started in prison with just accepting anything that would come my way. The next 4 or 5 years was educating myself, HNC, HND. The next 7 or 8 years, I'll be honest, James, I took the self-development, didn't have time because I was that embroiled in trying to keep the business afloat.
Is that one of the mistakes?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
That's the blinding flash of the obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, I was on the hamster wheel,
Yeah.
and I didn't have time to develop myself. And it just so happens those 7, 8 years were the most challenging 8 years of my business.
I still learnt a lot in them years, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to read, to
become something different.
Yes. I didn't have time to learn from others because I was that embroiled in what was happening on a day-to-day basis. Does that make sense?
It really does. I think it's resonating with a lot of people because you feel like you don't have time.
Yeah.
You feel like I don't have time to read a book or get a mentor or reply what the mentor's telling me because I've got to do all of this stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. And it wasn't until, again...
Is that a lie? Is it a lie? Could you have had an extra hour a week?
No, literally. I mean, our first office was above a pizza shop. I always tell this story. So I'd be out on the tools during the day, and then I'd get back to the office at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then me and the wife would be sat above the pizza shop with all the smells coming up from the pizza, go downstairs, get a pizza. We'd be in there till 10 o'clock at night doing all the invoicing for that day or the planning for the next day. That cycle was just continuous. Where do you fit that time for self-development if you're working from sort of 5 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night? You don't. And all that is reactive craziness, if that makes sense. It wasn't the most enjoyable time, and that's why I say about that point when the company the main contractor that we went bust was, do we carry on with this or do we just go back to getting a 9-to-5 job as such?
It does, and I want to go back to that point though, because when the 40 grand whatever scenario came where you lost that, which isn't a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. It might have been then, but it's not as much now. So I'm not saying that disrespectfully to anyone. You did make time, even though, you were still maybe sending the invoices out and, you and the wife having the pizza and even though that was still going on, you made time, you got the brains in, you called the meeting, you got the whiteboard out, the flip chart out, the post-it notes out, you made the time.
Yeah.
But only after 8 years or
because
something.
we had to hit another rock bottom for us to rethink.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We had to hit a pivotal moment where something almost bad had to happen for us to
make time.
to rethink, to restructure the business. And we completely restructured the business. We completely changed its direction and got everybody on board with those core values, the purpose, the passion. You know, I probably haven't talked about adaptations enough, really, because I'm really passionate about the work that we do. We were subcontracting for a company at the time that started doing won a wet room contract and asked us if we'd do some. And I'll never forget the first one we did. An 80-year-old lady, not had been able to wash or shower because she couldn't get into the bath for 2 years. We changed her bathroom into a wet room, and she cried when we'd finished and said she couldn't explain how much it had changed her life for the better. And it really, really hit home.
How old
that
was
for
she?
me, 80. And it really hit home how much we'd changed, got our independence back. And from that, it's our strapline, changing lives for the better. It's written on everything that, our vans are. And it's not just...
When was that? How long ago?
Oh, that would have been... so, I would say 2017.
7, 8 years ago.
7 or 8 years ago, yeah.
So 7, 8 years ago, and this was part of the time, the pivotal time. And we've all got like visualizations of this 80-year-old lady stood in front of you crying.
Yeah.
Because she was overwhelmed with
what a difference it made to her life. And it's with this type of work that we do, we can get everybody on board, all the trade, everybody's on board with it because they know the work that they're doing is having such a big impact. And it's so much easier, I think, for any business owners out there that when you find a passion, when you find your purpose, when you find your why, and you can explain that to the teams easily with confidence and everybody's on board with it, again, it's really helped us with that drive because it gives the bid writer so much content when you've got a team of 70 staff that love what they do and are really making a difference every day. Every adaptation we do makes a difference to someone's life. Saves the NHS millions of pounds. We've adapted over 6,000 homes in the Northwest. The money, even if you forget about the money, the independence that gives to people, the difference that it makes. They can stay in the home longer. It stops trips and falls. It is really rewarding work, and I'm glad we managed to find our why. And I encourage everybody else who hasn't yet in a business that they should.
Yeah, look, I'm feeling the burning sense of purpose and having a sort of purpose-driven business, really, to a degree now. Businesses. Yeah, you got.
Yeah, we in just before COVID in 2019, which is another story, but we decided to acquire Adaptation Supplies Limited. It was a business that we were at the time its main customer. And they supplied the materials that we needed to do our adaptation work. We just thought it makes sense to be honest, it came from one of these leadership meetings that we're talking about with the Post-it notes. One of the team said, why don't we buy ASL and get all our materials from it? It gives us better control. So I'm not an expert on acquiring businesses, but I knocked on the owner's door and said, would you be interested in selling? He said, yeah. Simple as that. And it took a lot longer, all the due diligence and everything that you have to do. But yeah, it was doing 750k when we bought it, and 5 years later we're nearly 5 million with 11 staff. We've built an e-commerce side to the building, which is doing to the business, which is doing really well. And yeah, it's great to be involved in acquisition. It's great to see it go from A to B.
Yeah, and 750 to 5 million. How have you done that?
we took the similar principles, if I'm honest, to what we did when we
Built a plan.
Yeah, we built a plan. We set out a 5-year plan. We got the right staff in a lot quicker than what we did the first, because we had money coming round, so it was a lot easier to do. We implemented a management system. Again, it was really scary actually, because we bought ASL and literally 6 months later COVID hit, and you can imagine all the things that go around your head as you just bought a new business. Oh no, what have I done? But it was actually a blessing, because it gave us time to implement the systems that we needed to implement within that business, because it didn't have any when we bought it. So we were able to input a management system. We were able to set up a management structure, which it never had before. And it really brought us very close as a team to be able to work on it every day and have that thinking time. Like before, I talk about everything was reactive. COVID gave us that thinking time. We actually implemented a new management system into both businesses at the same time during that time, because it gave us time to do so. So yeah, I think it was learning all the things that we've learned at UPS. We were able to do it much quicker at ASL.
How would you define yourself as a leader? If you in 3 to 5 words.
Passionate.
Yep.
Lead by example.
Yep.
I don't know what the right word is, but I love giving people chances from what happened to me. I go into prisons and do talks, and I'll take ex-cons on where maybe other leaders might not give someone that opportunity. I like to spot. It doesn't work all the time, but I like to spot it, and I like to try and bring that through.
What do you reckon an average team member would describe you as a leader?
Passionate, humble, lead by example, someone that they can talk to.
And what would your wife describe you as?
Maniac.
How would she describe you?
I would hope she describes me as a loving father, loving husband, someone who can't sit still, always thinking.
You've reminded me a little bit. You must know this guy, the key Timpson.
Yes.
And obviously, because you're giving people chances that have been in prison like you have, he does the same, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
In fact, his recruitment system is fully based on that.
Yeah.
Have you paid attention to his story?
Yeah. I've listened to his when he's been on a couple of podcasts. And it's great, isn't it? What he does with his staff.
It is. I mean, it's a good business model as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And the trust that he puts in each individual branch is great.
Just go there for a second. The trust that he puts in there. Have you got trust embedded in your businesses?
Yes. It took me a while to learn. Again, in the first section, I've almost got 2 stages. You've got the first section where you don't trust anyone and you think you have to do everything yourself, and I think every business owner probably goes through that. And then you realise, well, if you don't trust people, you're not going to be able to grow. So I've got a lot better at it, and it's learning to let go, trust others, give them that empowerment, make them feel trusted as much as you trust them. So that it goes both ways, doesn't it? So it's something I've got a lot better over the last 5 years, and I think if I hadn't, we'd never be where we are now.
What are some of the mistakes that you have made then on lack of trust or?
Lack of trust, certainly. Main thing is just being stagnated where we were.
Is that because you didn't trust other people to do it? And
I didn't trust. You have that thing that you think that you can't give that to someone else. You got to do it yourself, or
The guy who runs ActionCOACH, big coaching organisation called Brad Sugars. At the risk of offending, he calls that superheroitis.
Yeah.
You think that you've got to be the hero. You think that you've got to do everything.
I've completely gone 360 on it, though, James, over the last few years. I really have, although it's hard to transition from that, but I'm completely 360 on that, where I want the other people to feel empowered, and I want them to feel that they're trusted to lead their teams. had to learn the hard way. I think one of the big things that I still sort of regret is a business partner at the time who'd been with me for 10 years. He decided he wanted to move on and do something else, and I really struggled with that. And it's a regret that I have. I felt like that we were going to be together forever, and I wish, on reflection, that I maybe micromanaged him over those 10 years instead of giving him that empowerment, if that makes sense.
Tell us more about that, because there's some negative connotations that some people sometimes feel on micromanagement, but there doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I think it's probably... Go on, sorry.
You said that you give him empowerment. If you could go back again, you'd have micromanaged it.
No. I think my problem was I did micromanage him.
Right.
To instead of giving him that full empowerment, if that makes sense. I think I did that wrong, and I regret when he did decide to go after giving me sort of 10 years supporting me, taking all the heat off of me. I took it badly. Oh, why would you want to leave? And we've looked after, we were friends, and we don't speak anymore, and that's it's tough. And I regret how I handled him wanting to leave.
Your 360 point that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's like you've had a mind shift almost, because it's natural that you want to succeed.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs, they do. That's why they start a business. They're ambitious. They want to achieve something. So. But what you basically said is, now I just literally, my desire is I want everyone else to succeed. Now, of course, you still probably want to succeed yourself at the same time, but the driver inside that was a bit of a lesson for me, actually, just listening to you and processing it.
Yeah.
The best leaders, there's a genuine desire inside. They want other people to succeed. And that's the thinking now.
And I think you get great satisfaction from it as well. I get more satisfaction from seeing other people succeed in the business than you do from your own personal. It changes, but I certainly get more satisfaction from seeing other people in the business grow. And I also think that 360 thing that you talked about, learning from, reflecting on from what went wrong with my business partner, was this can't happen again. I've got to make sure that other people feeling fully empowered, fully in control of their own sort of destiny and past themselves, and that mutual trust each way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, look, it sounds like you've got it. I mean, you're painting a really good picture for the audience. I thought we'd be going down a route of discipline and focus and hard work and commitment and dedication, yet we've gone down this route of planning, getting the brains around the table, coming up with some kind of strategy and making decisions, empowering people, putting a management system in place. Kind of like doing it properly, and I thought we were going to go down this discipline focus route in this conversation, but we've not. We've gone down another, and I'm really pleased we have.
Yeah, I think the getting people around the table for me is so important, and it's something we do real regular with our senior leader team. We go away every quarter where we hire somewhere out, and we just talk about and plan, and everyone's involved in the decision making and the drive and the where we're going with the business. And 5 minds are better than 1 mind, aren't they? And when you realise that it's not all about what's in the business owner's mind or the MD's mind, you get your and not just, you see, we even take our site managers now in this meeting, because even they've got some great ideas. They're on the ground, bring their ideas to the table, because the more people that you can have creating and being involved in that direction, again, you're all on that same path moving forward, aren't you?
And that same path is the understated point there. 5 minds are better than 1. 5 minds moving in the same direction might be better than 50 minds.
Definitely,
So it becomes the multiplier, doesn't it? The alignment piece where you're all firing in the same direction.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and certainly over the last sort of few years, that's allowed me, probably the last 4 or 5 years, to go. I've been able to focus on that self-development that we spoke about again, because that team is in place and doesn't need me daily. Although I still am involved in the businesses, of course I am, but at a different stage now. It allows me to go back on that self-development, being able to read and go do something like this. It's great because you don't have to worry about what's going on in the business, because the team have got it covered, and I'm massively thankful of that. And the team is gives me massive purpose, knowing that I've got a great team, and I'm massively thankful to have that great team. It's great to be able to get up and go into work and not feel like you're going into work, if that makes sense. And you get to see the progress of these managers. I've got a lot of people within our business, most of them actually, James, that are 10 years plus, that have been on the same, not maybe the same jail path, but been on the same path. They've started as an apprentice, then they're a joiner, then they're a site manager, then they're a contracts manager. Yeah. They've been here for 10 years plus, and it's great watching that development. It's great to mentor them. It's great to be a part of their success. And it's been great to be able to shift my purpose from trying to prove people wrong, get to £1 million, have a nice car, those types of things, to now being part of their journey. Does that make sense?
It really does. I think they're going to enjoy listening to this as well, to be honest with you. Right. And you've just appreciated them again. One of the best things that we can do, recognise and appreciate.
Yeah, definitely.
Doesn't cost anything, does it?
Does it? It's really important, I think.
It starts at home as well. When you can do it at home to your loved ones, appreciate it. Twice a day.
Yeah.
You'll do it everywhere else.
That's right.
All right, got some quick questions for you here. What's been the hardest lesson to learn?
Hardest lesson to learn? Trusting others.
Why?
Because as soon as I did realise I could trust others, the business started moving at a much quicker pace than I could have ever done it by myself.
Real powerful lies. What's the most beautiful thing about owning a business?
Having a purpose.
Really cool. And what's the most beautiful thing about being a leader?
Having a team to lead.
Other people. Nice.
It's just being around other people.
What's the best gift you can give anyone?
Your time. Listen.
Have you always given people your time?
Not in them first 10 years. But certainly now, I see myself as, the CEO, and I'm not operationally involved much in the business anymore. My job is to be there to support, to mentor, to guide, and to listen, and to spot people that are down. You see someone that's not got a smile on the face. What's up? You put that arm around them, and if you can make a difference to someone's life that day, just putting a smile on them, means a lot.
I know you listen to books rather than reading books, yeah?
I do, yeah.
What's the best book you've read?
Simon Sinek. Finding Your Why.
Finding Your Why. Start with why, yeah. Powerful TED Talk as well.
Yeah. I love the Jocko Willink stuff, the Dichotomy of Leadership. Have you read that one?
No, I've not.
It's a good book.
What was the biggest thing you got from that?
It's just, he takes the disciplinaries from his army background into the workplace. And again, I talk about the boot camp thing, just the basics, the being at work on time, being for meetings at time. Just all the little disciplines I think are really important. I think if you don't have them, especially when you've got 70 staff, if you don't have them, the business soon gets out of control.
Dichotomy of leadership, nice. What should the headline be for this podcast? What do you reckon?
Changing lives for the better.
Change your life for the better. That was quick, wasn't it? It's pretty sharp on that. Survival to success. Change your life for the better. I like that. And what should the first action, if you could encourage the listeners, for the first thing that they do now they've listened to this, what would it be?
Ensure that they've got the 5-year plan. Ensure that they've got a good leadership team.
Love that. Do you know what? That's one of my favourite bits of this interview. You know that day where you did the 5-year plan and you decided on one thing, and then you said, we're set on our merry way. You know, and then you also then added a bit of detail about putting the structures in place and the processes, and definitely that's one of my favourite things. You know, but honestly, my favourite thing is not talking about what I plan on talking about, and majoring on humble leadership, forgiveness, and I think you've given a little bit of a blueprint. You've definitely given some solid ideas to the listeners on how to break out this £1 million sort of hamster wheel, merry-go-wheel,
revolving door,
and get to the 10 plus. I mean, there's a little bit of a blueprint there. You're going to be surprised. There's going to be such a positive response to this.
I'd be happy if it's helped anyone, you know, from anyone in business or to anyone that's struggling with dyslexia. Or I know it's a business podcast, so there probably won't be many that have maybe had my initial start, but if there is, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing stuff like this. Even if it helps one person, it makes that purpose grow a little bit wider than just the team that I'm working with on a daily basis.
Well, look, there was clearly several favourite bits for me. What's been your favourite bit of the conversation?
Being challenged, you know, it's an opportunity to reflect, I think, when you do something like this, and I think you delve a little bit deeper than anyone's ever maybe delved before in questions like this, and it's humbling a little bit to just sort of sit back and go over your story and your journey. So thank you for that.
What's next for the great Andrew Wood? What's the next 10 years look like?
The next 10 years, I want to be on a beach in Spain somewhere, hopefully. No, it's carry on bringing the business forwards. I'd love to take ASL to the 10, to the 15, to the 20.
Your first point on the beach in Spain, I know you skipped past that.
Yeah.
Maybe because you thought you should skip past that, but you're already committing to that because you're building.
Yeah.
You're building out there. You're literally, the part of the next 10 years is happening because you're committed to it. You're building.
I am. Yeah, I'm planning towards that. I think, you know, the setting the structure up in the business with the management teams to be able to run without me. I've worked very hard on the businesses for 20 years, and my first son, Ethan, 19 now, will tell you I didn't spend as much time as him as I should have, because I was in that 10 years of working all the time. And I think that with my 7-year-old and 4-year-old, I want to spend a bit more time with them. And even if that's just school holidays to start off with, if that transitions into something else, great, because the team, if I go back to the team gives me the confidence to do that now.
Well said, well wrapped up. Andrew Wood, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.